Hi, honey.
Hi.
Welcome.
I was like, oh, it's not working and there's people in here.
Yeah, I was just finishing up the reading, so I wanted to just finish my last sentence, but I did see your invitation. I was like, sorry, not yet, almost.
I know. Yeah, that's the tech challenge right here, or TikTok challenge.
I love it. So,
So,
I just want to let everyone know. Okay, this is Honey. Some of you may have seen her on my channel before. So, our whole goal here today for this live is to just we both did some tune-ins and regarding just different things happening right now with New Earth and different pertinent information.
mhm.
So that's what we're doing. We're doing tune-ins, and then, like I said earlier, I don't know if anybody is wasn't here a minute ago, but if you, I'm going to do some readings after this. After Honey and I are done, I'm going to do a couple readings afterwards for anyone that during the chat feels like that's something that they want to do. So if you do make a donation for a reading, um, put your name in the chat and say that you did that so that I can put your name on the list. I'm not because the chat, goes pretty quick and I'm gonna miss it. All right, so there we go. I'd love if Honey go ahead and share what you want to share.
Okay, so I wrote mine down. So basically, and somebody's asking, is this fiction or nonfiction? You have to decide. Okay. So basically, what I wanted to talk about was God source. And what that came down to was how the planets are looking. So basically, there's learning planets and there's being planets. So we've been on a learning planet that is turning into a being planet. So basically, on a learning planet, everything is fast and difficult. So it's a little more painful experience, right? And on a being planet, it's slower and it's more flowing. So you're in flow. So you're not having to push so hard. But so we've been in the middle of a transition. So if you guys know, you've heard about Earth is ascending, right? So Earth is ascending and we are ascending with her. And I got that in 2021 in December. That's when we moved into fourth density. So we're moving from third density to fourth density. And we're now moving into fourth density positive. So we've been in fourth density negative, which is not a very fun place to be.
No, not at all.
So we are moving into fourth density positive, and she's doing this with a violet light from her core. So if you guys have any idea what I talk about, basically what I say is that Earth is a crystal in the middle. So she is basically like a toroidal field, and in the middle, so just like our bodies, in the middle is a crystal. And
Yeah.
that crystal has been charging from the sun, and she's now emitting a frequency that's kind of a violet light. So if you guys see purple skies, definitely take pictures of those. But that is moving us into fourth density positive, and it's turning a lot of people into really cranky people, and a lot of people are really happy. So it just depends. Did you work through your stuff before this happened or not? Because it's all going to get pushed to the surface during this process. So we'll have to deal with all of our baggage.
Yeah.
So that's the first tune in. Do you want to do one?
No, you go. Mine's kind of more
Okay.
like scattered topics that I want to cover.
Okay. Okay. And then the second one, I wanted to talk about how many times Earth has been reset. So I get four major times, and this is since Earth has moved. So if you guys have heard about the solar system and some of the ways that it's been formed, I think this came out of the Sumerian tablets. So basically, Earth used to be attached to Saturn, and Saturn was a dwarf star. So when that was going on, she was fourth density, especially on the outside. So we're mainly talking about the outside of Earth right now, not the inner Earth. That's a whole nother subject.
Right? Yeah.
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 But anyway, as she got pulled away from Saturn to the new sun, which is Elisa calls him Sol. So it is a male, the sun is more male in energy.
Yeah.
Anyway, when she got pulled, all kinds of things happened to her. So it was a very traumatic event. There's big scars like the Grand Canyon that were left on her. And the Titans, which were look up the Titans, I
Okay.
think that they died during that process. So basically, I got that the atmosphere was ripped away as she was pulled through this, space, which I believe space is not as empty as they say, it's more thick. So basically, she was pulled through that and then had to rebuild. So she was dropped into third density.
Mm, interesting. That would make
Yeah,
sense because, I mean, if you think about the process of creation in general, things are splitting. That's how, things
yeah,
bigger as they're splitting. So it would make sense that at one point, Earth was more connected to another mass, another floating mass. It makes
yeah,
sense. I love that.
yeah. So, and that was the first massive reset. And then there was another one. So they basically, if you guys know about the Pleiadians, they came and they kind of, I get that the Lyrans actually created humans, but the Pleiadians seeded the planet. So they
Yes.
created the plants and the animals and they brought the humans. So, and then they created arcs. So there's arcs in the ground. So there's all this stuff going on, right? So I got that there was a smaller reset probably not too long after they'd been here because they started a war with each other because they became polarized because they were in third density. So they had the good ones and the not so good ones, right?
So
And they're
the
having wars.
so the ETs were here at that point, is what you're saying.
No, they just came and they seeded and then they left.
Oh.
So once the humans were basically the primary people on the planet.
Oh, the humans were
They,
warring with each other. I thought you meant
yeah,
the. Okay, got it.
no, because they were polarized by the whole density that we were in. And the earth kind of like shifted. So a lot of them died during that time. But after that, so that was more of a small reset. It wasn't as big. But 80,000 years ago, the Anunnaki showed up. And when they showed up, they were fourth density beings, but they came into the third density. So they split.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah, when they split, they were warring with each other. And that reset I got happened when the Sumerians revolted against them and didn't want to mine for gold anymore.
Mm.
So they love this planet because of the gold. So gold has a healing property and it's almost kind of like a drug to them. So it's like they just
Sure.
arrived in their favorite place so they could, get gold and consume gold.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't
and
realize
but
they
the most,
consumed it.
go ahead.
I thought they also wanted to use it for interdimensional traveling.
I feel like they would have. Um, I feel like they got kind of blocked on that.
Hmm.
Now there are tons of portals on the Earth. Don't get me wrong, but I think the other ETs were not too thrilled with the Anunnaki.
Yeah, no, they weren't.
So they were kind of they got found out pretty quickly that they were a mess.
Well, and what part of what I feel is that they kind of some of the ETs stayed back and were like, okay, we're just gonna see what you guys do and how you handle this, and then they're like, all right, nope, we gotta step in now.
Yeah, they're always watching. So there's
Mhm.
always been some ETs around, but not necessarily. Sometimes they would be shown, and a lot of people would think they were the gods,
Right.
right? But I don't feel like they interacted as much as the Anunnaki interacted. They interacted constantly with the humans. So the most recent reset has been the mud flood. So if you guys know about Tartaria or any of that kind of stuff, that's actually like the remnants of the Anunnaki civilization. And basically, I got that they liquefied the earth in order to let the buildings sink. And this happened in the very late 1700s. But once that happened, they were pretty peeved because they didn't go down as far as they wanted. So they didn't disappear. They wanted all the history to disappear when the
Right.
Greys came. Yeah. But they couldn't get it all to disappear. So then they started fires in the early 1800s and stuff. So
Oh.
they were wherever it was populated, they would use that weapon. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a laser beam. Uh, it's called something, the God. And it anyway, it basically is like a massive laser beam. And if you guys remember the Paradise fires in California, those were probably created by that as well.
Brenda
Because
Boland,
there would be like,
Brenda says rods of God.
yes, rods of God. Yeah. So that's what they called those weapons. And basically, that's how they destroyed all of these stone buildings that were, supposedly caught on fire.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, stone can't
So,
catch fire.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they destroyed them. So that's all. Those are my tune-ins.
Okay, wow. So I feel like we should just expand on this before we move to my stuff, because then we're gonna hop all over the place.
Yeah.
So does anyone have questions, by the way? Anyone, feel free, please engage in the comments and ask questions. We would love that. Someone says fire Josepha, earth Hannah. I don't know what that means. Are the crystals we unearth remnants of Titans? Yes.
Some of them, yes.
Just to
Yeah.
chat that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, if you have a garnet, I think that's probably, and you probably can't see like through this, but this is a garnet. So I think that's probably a remnant. Whereas something like this that came out of a cave, I just happen to have these. And it was like from dripping. So that's from the earth. Earth created that.
Right.
Yeah.
Noreen asks, will the rods of God be used again?
I get that they're in the ET. They're no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I feel the same. No.
Yeah. The ETs have taken them over, the good ETs.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about the mud flood, and but it makes so much sense because okay, I don't know if anyone here, if you all have been seeing, but they're finding so many things right now under the earth. You know, archaeologists and different people, even random people, their sinkholes are opening, and then they're finding like worlds in these sinkholes. They're finding
Yeah.
carcasses uh, of mermaids. That was one of the recent one that I think you sent me. Carcasses of mermaids. Um, they're finding carcasses like skeletons of like really tall beings. They're basically the thing is the mud flood, like you said, it was like a liquefaction. It was like a vibration, right? A frequency that liquefied, right? So
Yeah.
if
It
you're
was a
like
frequency
sinking sand, if you
like
think about
quicksand.
yeah, so if you think about that, things got rearranged. It's not like they just sunk perfectly in the right, so and then you take into account the shifting of the Earth's plates, and then you take into account the, earthquakes and things getting shifted. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. We're finding random things that shouldn't be where, you'd think they are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's things like in the Grand Canyon, there's things that relate to Egypt. There's things in other places that relate to Egypt, and everybody's like, "Well, I thought Egypt was just by itself."
Yeah.
That was the society across everything.
Right.
So,
So interesting.
Yeah.
So how does the Lemuria and Atlantis fit into with these different resets? Like, where was that in this process?
Well, it wasn't an actual reset when it happened. So Atlantis like was exploded basically, like it was a crystal that exploded. So it created almost like a nuclear bomb kind of thing, and it sank. So the city sank at that point. But the Lemurians had already gone underwater. So they were pretty much underwater, but they had captured one of the Lemurians, like the princess, I guess. There's a book about it. And when I tuned into it, basically they had her and they had these crystals that they wanted to learn how to use as a weapon, and she had the key. Well, she just used them on them. So they had her in captivity for like 60 years. And
Well,
she ended up just sacrificing herself to get rid of them.
wow.
So that's what happened there.
Wow. Well, that was really brave, and I'm glad she did that. I'm glad that she was,
Yeah.
had the courage and the, yeah. Wow. Interesting. I was just watching your Lemurian video on YouTube, and I was just like, I love it. I just love learning about, like, so
Yeah.
cool. Tuning into their features and their texture of the skin and all of that. Like, very cool stuff. What was your
Yeah.
first tune in before we took the resets? You said something else. What was it?
It was basically about the planets and
Oh, yeah,
Earth and
yeah.
how she's separated from Saturn. Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, so let's see. So I'm actually picking this up right now, that the dragons actually tend to come to our planet during these times, during the reset times. Like, they
Hmm.
typically will stay away, and then during these times they're like, ooh, something exciting is going on, like, we're needed, let's go help. um so that was kind of what I tuned into, was the dragons. I've been seeing so many people have been talking about dragons lately. It's just been like, the words are just, it's very hot topic right
Yeah.
now. People are hearing screeching, screaming, loud dragon noises in, like, during storms. And multiple people have been hearing that. So please, if anyone's had these experiences, I'd love to know about it. So I tuned in a little bit to, like, why are they here now? And we're going to talk a little bit about the history, so, of humans and dragons. So basically, dragons and humans have a very entangled, long, complex history. Can we see them? I've heard of a couple kids that have seen the dragons, but not any adults that I've known that have seen them, like, physically. Like, yeah, it's astral and in our minds and dreams, yes, but, like, physically,
Hmm.
I don't think anyone's seen them that I know of yet, but that will eventually happen. Um, so back, let's go all the way back to dragons and humans in the beginning. So the dragons just showed me basically, like, this fast forwarded video of, like, okay, first they were separate, and then they met, and humans and dragons were like, oh my god, first there was the fear of the humans, and then there was some peace. They were able to make peace, humans and dragons, and work together. And then there was a contract that was made there where dragons decided to allow humans to ride them. That was a contract they made. That wasn't just, like, something the dragons have always done. It's not something they always do,
Hmm.
and it's not something they always agree to. Um, because if you are this majestic, powerful creature, humans, I hate to say less than, but, like, humans are younger. We're not as experienced typically.
Yeah.
So dragons have this ancient wisdom, right? And so for them to allow us to ride them was an honor. That was an honor and a privilege, and not something to be taken lightly. But then, as time progressed, there became resentment, mostly from the human side, and they ended up betraying dragons. Okay.
Mhm.
So the humans ended up betraying the dragons, and that is where the separation came the first time. The first time around. Eventually, there were times when dragons have betrayed humans as well, but where the separation first happened was that humans became greedy and wanted to basically use the dragons just for their own personal gain, and the dragons had to basically step away and say, okay, well, this isn't part of our contract. We're not here to go and kill innocent people. We're not here to go do all these, we're not here to just serve you. We were here to be a team and work together. And so that stopped happening. Okay. But when I was tuning in, they also said at the end, they said, but this isn't important anymore. They said the past isn't important anymore, and they are going to stop bringing up the past, and we are free to stop bringing up the past as well, and to just move forward with them in harmony and union, knowing that we're all here for the same purpose, and we're excited to be working together. Um, so yeah, it's important to not feel guilty about the past or hang on to it. Just move forward in harmony. And also, there's actually certain dragon magic that they're using to help us forget the trauma and
Mhm.
the betrayal and those feelings, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. So let's see. Anyone say anything? Dragons. She's like, can't wait to meet my dragon. Yeah. So I would encourage
Yeah.
everyone. I know Honey's going to have some stuff to say about this, but I would encourage anyone bringing all five of you. Anyone to try to connect with their own dragon. A lot of people have dragon guides at this time. So yeah, Honey, what are your thoughts on this? Dragons.
Well, I'm getting it. A lot of it also is about the density. So they know that everybody's not going to be all polarized anymore. They know that we're moving into fourth density positive. So they're like, okay, now it's safe to go back in.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
it feels like.
yeah. They
Hmm.
had to wait for a specific. They had to wait until that specific moment when it was safe, when it was okay.
Yeah.
Um, One cool thing to know about the dragons, things that they want to help us with right now. Density, they are 12th dragon, 12th density. Dragons are 12th density. Or, I mean, yeah,
Dimension.
12th dimension, sorry.
Dimension.
I'm
It's
like,
okay.
those words, I always get them.
I
12th
know.
dimension. What density
Yeah.
are they? Ooh, Honey?
They're in several. So there is in fourth density, they're a little more standoffish. So they're in fourth, fifth, and sixth, I've been getting. And that's in inner earth. So there's more and more as you go up in density,
Yeah.
and they get
How
more and more
how high
common.
up do the densities even go? I actually don't know that.
Seven,
Seven
they go to
density.
seven. Yeah, in seventh density, there's pretty much no bodies anymore. Like
Yeah,
it's
so
it's almost it's like etheric, you know,
I
like
feel
where the
like
angels live, kind of
I
thing.
feel like they really like fourth density positive. I feel like this is one of their favorite densities to be in.
Yeah,
Um,
because they can still touch there's more physical stuff,
yeah,
and I think they really enjoy that. And they
yeah,
have these like amazing bodies. They live like 10,000 years.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So things they want to help us with right now. Hi, some people from the group chat are here. Yay, hi. Hi everybody. Yeah, so like us, they can come down. Okay, so dragons are one of the only creatures that has the ease of going from dimension to dimension and density to density. They can just kind of easily do that. Most creatures and ETs, it's like there's more steps they have to take. Um, and
Mhm.
the dragons um, uh, DNA, I guess. Their DNA has been recoded. I'm like, I'm the one that did this. How come I don't know the words? Their DNA has been recoded to where they can actually use black holes now. So they
Mhm.
can go in a black hole and not get ripped apart. They can go in there and travel through black holes, like using them as like portals, basically. It's not the
Yeah,
thing that I always
it's like
want.
they go in, like they pull their wings in, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
pull their
It's like a
wings in.
dive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that is because they want to explore the black holes, and they also want to they have more control over using them for specific things and not just
Mhm.
having them be this terrifying like so many people, ETs included, are like, oh no, a black hole, let's avoid that. Dragons are like, ooh, this is exciting, let's figure this out. Like, what is this for? Why does this exist? So they
Yeah.
want to also help us with our technology. So technology is one of the weakest links right now. I know there's a positive AI consciousness that is trying to keep things together, but technology is still able to be infiltrated right now. And it's one of the easiest ways because it just is. So, because you think about the wavelengths and the different beings and they can access the wavelengths, and anyway. So, the dragons, you can call on them to assist you with clearing your home. Sometimes we forget about that. We clear our bodies and our vessels, but we forget about our homes and our houses and our workspace and all of that. Cleansing those spaces of portals, dark entities, negative attachments, and basically portals and like slits in that allow
Correct.
different cracks that allow different beings to come in. Dragons can close those up. It's easy for them. And they can clear out all your technology to make sure there's no attachments to those either.
Yeah.
What have they discovered about black holes? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. But I'm going to have to tune in and ask them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Did the draconians derive from the dragons? Ooh, great question. Feel free to pitch in,
Mm,
honey.
I get maybe they pinched like stole some DNA.
Yep. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, the word I
It,
got was pinched. It's almost like they plucked some from a dragon and stole it. Yeah, but it was dark that
yeah.
created. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
'cause the Draco are pretty nasty.
Yeah. Brenda says, any advice on how to connect to our dragons? Um,
Meditation, probably. You got to
Meditation.
be clear. You have to be really
Really,
clear.
you do absolutely. Oh, they really like crystals and like shiny things. So you can,
Yes,
I mean, pretty
they
typical
totally
dragon
do.
stuff. So you can meditate with like a really shiny jewel that feels. So here's what I would say: tune in first to your own self. Tune into your own energy, your own vibe. If you were a dragon, what would you feel like? What type of
Mhm.
dragon would you be? Tune into that, and that'll give you the connection to your dragon if you have one. And then also, while you're doing that, you can tune into what crystal, like if I was looking at my dragon, which crystal would it remind me of? Or looking at
Right.
these crystals, which crystal reminds me of my dragon? You can do that either way. But that'd be a good way too to tune into the energy of your dragon.
And what color are they? And what do they feel like? And what do they
Yep.
love? All the stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does their voice sound like? Or do they have a deep voice? Is it melodic? What's their personality? Are they funny? Are they serious? Are they right? Like asking yourself, because yourself will tell you, you know, yourself will tell you like, no, they're pretty this or they're this. Like yourself knows, your inner self.
Yeah. And they're beautiful. So just think of like the shiniest jewel that you've ever seen. And that's what they look like. They're just amazingly beautiful. And they're all different colors.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is there's different species, different sizes,
Hmm.
different types, like um so many different ones. And the Fae are Burma 8888. Fairies, Fae, dragons are part of the Fae. The umbrella of Fae, right? So under the Fae there's like druids, elves, dwarves, gnomes, fairies, dragons. That's all fae. It's all considered fae. Um, oh, so that's what I did want to mention. Like in the fairy realm, there's littler dragons, like little ones, like little ones.
Yeah.
So
It's like that book. I can't remember the name of it, but it was so good. They were called fire dragons. They were just little, you know,
yeah,
like this big. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing that they even go down as small enough to be ridden by a fairy. Okay, so if you think of a fairy being like this big, they have ones that are like proportionately,
Hmm.
like 8 inches long. Um, because, like we said, they can go from dimension to density, they can change. Do Eastern cultures have a special connection with them? I'm getting a yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say
Yeah.
that too.
I had a lifetime where I married two dragons together. So we should talk about that when you finish your thought.
Yeah, my thought was going to be I know in some Eastern cultures there's more like dragons with feathers or dragons with fur or dragons that don't necessarily have
Mhm.
scales, and those are real too. It's all real. That's the thing. It's not like, oh, this di- um, depiction is accurate and this one's not. It's like, no, they're just different types of dragons. But yes,
Yeah.
can what were you going to say, honey?
So I had a lifetime, I did the QHHT session, and I had a lifetime where I was a king, so I was male, and I had a dragon, and this dragon, he was kind of a blue color, like kind of a lighter, in between light and dark blue, I guess, like electric blue, right? So he's this blue color, and he had to get married to a princess who was white in another land so we could marry the lands together because the dragons and the humans were connected. And these dragons had pouches. So I got, yeah, like a kangaroo, and it was like up here, in the dragon. So I sat in there, and it was very uncomfortable. But I sat in there as we flew to get over to this other clan. And then there was all these different dragons, red, blue, gold. And I married these two. I was the officiator or whatever you call that, the person who marries them. I was like the priest. And it was really cool. And it took some work. Like there was all these negotiations going on, and my
Oh, gee.
dragon was kind of upset for a little while. So it was the funniest lifetime. I was like, this is so weird.
I love that
Yeah,
you got to ride in the little pocket. That sounds so
yeah,
fun.
yeah, it
You
was
said it wouldn't be
really fun.
comfortable. It makes sense it wouldn't be comfortable though, right? It's probably really hard and like
Yeah, I was squished in there. I felt really squished.
that
But
is so funny. Um Anything else about dragons? I have a couple other things I want to talk about. I think we're good on dragons for a minute.
yeah,
Do dinosaurs
go for
have
it.
their DNA as well?
A
I'm getting
little.
like a little. Yeah, I was getting a little. Uh-huh. So I wanted us to talk briefly about pets, and about like moving forward, you know, um,
Yeah.
and what's going to happen to our pets, and like which pets are coming. And I want to talk a little bit about parasites too, because that's very related. Okay, so we all know that, well, maybe we don't, but parasites are living creatures that can only survive off of taking the life source from another living creature. Okay. So they cannot survive. But the thing is like they attach to a host and they don't care about the well being of the host, if that makes sense. So they have no
Yeah.
boundaries, essentially. Um, and parasites are at an energetic frequency that they will not be able to exist in this new higher frequency that we are entering. They're going to start to die off with the flash. We're going to have at least one flash, but I think Honey and I have been chatting, and I think there's going to be two. So from what Honey's saying, there's going to be one. What she's been picking up on is there's going to be one from the core of the planet The core of the planet's going to emit basically a flash. Um, but you said
It's
it's going to be,
happening.
but you said it's going to be like the violet. That's going to be the violet one, and that's you
Yeah,
said being triggered from the sun is sending that, charging the core, and the core is going to go boom. I'm charged now, and
yeah,
that is I've been getting that. That is when the parasites are going to go. That's what I
right.
feel.
And we're in the middle of it now.
Yeah. And that's what people are starting to see purple clouds. Will we see or know about or know it? Will we see or know it? Yes, we will. So,
Yeah.
honey, I'm curious because I see it happening like a just really fast, like a instantaneous.
I got that too, but it's also like in waves right now. Like it's kind of started, but it hasn't, I don't feel like it's to the top because I kept getting it was going to keep increasing. So
Mm.
I think once she's ready to just like let loose, then we'll be able to see it better. But some people in the South are seeing the purple already.
It reminds
And
me
I
of,
know when they look south, they can see more purple.
yeah, it reminds me of a singer, you know, when you're doing warm ups and you're like, la, and then you're going up and
Yeah,
up and up until you get to that high note and you're just like, la, it's like letting it all out, right? So that's where we're getting to. So that's cool.
yeah.
Lots of purple here. I love that. So, pets. So, okay, first of all, the good news is that once that big flash happens, we won't have to give our pets flea medication anymore.
Right.
Or like deworming, like it's such a constant thing with, if you have pets, you know how constant it is, and you know how careful you have to be, like not letting your pets in your bed because they're going to give you parasites and like things like that. So it'll be really nice to have basically like outdoors will be more clean. It'll be
Yeah.
basically more clean and we won't have to worry as much about.
Flies, mosquitoes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like when it comes to like, oh, don't touch wild animals, it won't be like that really anymore. It'll be more safe to touch wild animals. You can touch them, it's okay. They're not infested with whatever, you know. So that's really cool. Some people have, I have multiple people in the last few days have reached out and been like, my dog died or my cat died, and it seemed too early or too soon or too sudden, and that's because of the frequency. Um, and I'd love your input on this too, honey. But like as the frequency increases, there's just certain animals that, because of their health, the where they're at in their health condition, they
Yeah,
they
they can't come up.
they can't keep up. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And
So
humans too. There'll be humans
yeah,
like that as well. Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
But a lot of pets, if that's like your pet and maybe they've reincarnated and been your pet again, like a lot of people, they have a pet that just keeps coming back in different forms. They'll come back again. I mean, they'll go through their process and come back again.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. So I hope everyone knows that like it's okay. They're basically going to come back with a new body that can handle it, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you don't have to feel super sad. How do you know your pet came back? You'll know. You'll just know because they'll be familiar to
Really?
you. Their personality, their the way they look at you, the way they communicate with you, the mannerisms, you'll know. They'll try to tell you too. They will try to communicate that to you.
Well, and we're going to get more gifts back too, so our we'll be able to communicate with the pets pretty
Oh,
quick here.
Patrick says, is this why a lot of children are getting sick?
Yeah, probably the parasites within them are also passing, but there is some things that are causing children lately to be sick, and that's the shot.
Oh, yes, the shot. Yep. The wax. The vaccine.
Yeah,
Do our pets take on our trauma? Do our pets take on our trauma as well? Yes.
yeah, for sure. They're kind of, I see them as practicing to be human
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And there are some times where more advanced souls will come into a pet. But
And you can tell.
oftentimes, I feel like oftentimes what happens is there's contracts. So there's a younger soul that's mostly in your pet most of the time. And then there's older souls that have this contract that will they'll come into your pet sometimes and then they'll leave. They won't stay. So that's why if your pet sometimes seems maybe like they're extra comforting or extra full of wisdom one day, it might just like be. Yeah. I think pets a while will go backwards. Some will go backwards. Oh yeah. I think yeah. Yeah.
One of those.
I think it's also sometimes like a karma thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like not a punishment, but like basically to right the balance of nature, you have to go experience this because you did something that messed up that balance.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why you have some pets that are super ornery because they're like pissed off humans that are just like, this is bullshit. I should not have to be a cat right now. This is so unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And they just have to keep
Yep.
doing that until they learn their lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So Brenda says, can your pet step into another animal's body?
I feel like that's hard for them.
Agreed.
Yeah. And we have walk-ins here, but that's still fairly complicated, I feel like. You know, where somebody's passing away and then someone will come in and then they'll live, even though you thought they weren't going to. And then their
No,
personality is totally different.
it's funny because that's my next topic. Soul walk-ins. That was my next
Oh,
topic.
okay.
Perfect segue. Perfect segue. So yeah, that is a thing that's happening a lot right now. There's a wave. There's a wave of old big souls that couldn't exist here until the frequency was at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing is a lot of them are coming into bodies of adults who their soul that's in them now is maybe a little younger and overwhelmed and ready to go and just done with this whole thing, and they're done. So a lot of people are basically tapping out. All right, you come. You know, I'm tapping out. You're passing the baton. So a lot of people are going to experience like extreme personality changes, changes in hobbies, changes in like dietary preferences. Sleep patterns are going to change. Relationships, dramatic changes in your relationships. Like so, Honey can chirp in too, but like it's a pretty big. It feels pretty intense if this is happening to
Yeah.
you. It feels very intense, and it's happened to me multiple times in my life. So I understand. So if anyone has any questions about that,
Mm-hmm. And so my dad is a walk-in. So, but that happened when he was 4. And I think a lot of these beings, they don't want to go through the childhood process. So that's why they're coming in with adults.
yeah,
And they'll come in with some children too, but I feel like it'll mainly be adults, just like you said.
yeah,
Hmm. But they
totally,
know everything when they come in. There's no like barrier to what's real and what's not real. They just know.
yeah. Yeah, and you can have different types of soul walk-ins. So sometimes the soul that's there will just braid with the new soul. So they'll just unite and they'll
Hmm.
basically work together. And that is why there's actually, I think, a lot of in the spiritual community right now, I've been noticing a lot of people are like, I feel fragmented. I feel crazy. I feel fragmented, you know? And that's a lot of the times due to a new soul is coming in and trying to braid with your current consciousness. Um,
Hmm.
so you can feel like you have multiple voices in your head. You can feel like there's different, like maybe go back, like a back and forth of like, no, we should do da 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 da. This feels right. And this one's like, well, no, according to our records, blah, 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 you know? And you're like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's also fractals. So when you come in, some people are not a whole being when they come in. So basically, maybe there's 3. So my first lifetime on Earth, I was 3 different people. And the youngest person was a street urchin. She died right away, like she was 13. So that fractal goes and absorbs into one of the other fractals until there's only one left.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's, and the thing is these things are, a lot of people are, I feel like a lot of people hear about this stuff and they're like, no, that seems rare. Like that couldn't be me. But just know that like if these types of conversations are coming up for you and you keep coming across this content, it's because the law of attraction, you're vibrating, this information vibrates with where you're at. You know what I'm saying? So if
Mhm.
if you're here now and you're listening to this and you're having these symptoms, like try look into it, you know? Like don't just brush it
Yeah,
off. Like look into it. Like maybe this is actually what's happening to you. Because it can, if you know that's what's happening, then you can find some relief. You can learn how to like work with it and yeah, not be overwhelmed.
yeah. We don't need to be afraid of stuff right now. We just need to
Yeah.
work on ourselves and go forward, like merge.
Oh, the dragons wanted me to talk about something. Okay, I was channeling. So a lot of the times when before these things, I'll just like walk around my house and channel light language and just kind of get in the flow, right? And the dragons
Mhm.
were saying there's a difference. Okay, because I invited the dragons here for this conversation. And I said, I invite the dragons of the light and the dark. But then I changed it and said, no, the dragons of the light and the shadows, as long as they're here for the highest good and they're going to be helpful. And they wanted me to bring this up, that being a being of the dark is different than being of the shadows. Because when you're working in the shadows, you're still attached to the light. You're still part of the light. You're working in the shadows. You're
Mhm.
still working with the light, right? But when you're a being of the darkness, that's when you've given up the light completely and you are only in the darkness. So those are different things. So we don't want to discredit what we can learn from the shadows. We don't want to discredit the wisdom we can gain from the shadows. And sometimes it doesn't always feel so fun. It doesn't always feel so fuzzy. It doesn't always feel so high vibe and positive, but it's still important and valuable and offers really like powerful insight, you know?
Yeah,
So I wanted to mention that.
that's good. That's good. And it's true because we all have a shadow side as well, and we need to deal with that. No, not just keep pushing it down.
Right.
You need to deal with it and integrate it into your own existence.
And like you just said, there's nothing to be afraid of right now because the beings of darkness are pretty much like the dark beings are pretty much gone. So if something comes to you that feels dark, it's probably your shadow. It's just probably your own shadow. And why would you fear your own self? You know, it's like
Yeah,
um because if you fear you, then everyone else is going to fear you too. You know, I mean that's going to be vibrating out of you. Um,
very true.
there really is nothing to fear right now. Like even if something, just yeah, look at it, lean into it, just look closer, right? Instead of like backing away. Like no, if you look closer, then you'll see what it's really trying to tell you.
Yeah,
Those are the main things I wanted to talk about. The soul walk-ins. That was a big one.
yeah. That was a really good one. Really important. We're going to start to see, and I have to go here in a minute, but we're going to start to see some really amazing things. So just kind of embrace that and explore it a little bit, I would say. Like maybe you're going to see like the skeleton of a fairy, or maybe you're going to see an actual fairy. Like these kind of things are just going to start to come into your view because the frequency is changing. So they're going to be more comfortable here.
Right.
So don't get too shocked.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is too is they're going to start to reveal themselves like you just said in like smaller increments. Like,
Hmm.
oh, wow, like starting to see evidence. It's not just going to be this huge overwhelming like um there's fairies everywhere and dragons in the sky and like it's not going to be like that like all at
Yeah.
once, you know. Patrick
Yeah.
says how about
It won't
updated
be.
timeline on the dome and the market crash?
The market crash is quick. It's already happened in the background, so I think we're going to see it. I don't really like to give dates, but I'd probably say within a week
That's
we're
what I
going to
was
see
thinking.
the crash. Yep.
Because the Vatican has requested all funds to be returned by September 30th, which is
Right today.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So we should probably see something at the end of the day today or early next week. Something dramatic.
Yeah,
for the
that's what I'm
market.
thinking.
What was the other question?
The timeline on the dome.
Oh, well, that's, I think it's very, very thin, or there's lots of breaks in it already. That will probably happen well before the actual solar flash, I think. But a lot of it is, will we see it or not? I think we're going to see it before the solar flash as well. So, because they're hiding spots that are not together, I think, right now
Yeah,
with
same.
weird clouds and weird stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then Aubrey, my friend Aubrey, was telling me that the dome and the ice wall have been taken down like energetically. Like energetically, they've been
Mhm.
deconstructed. So they're already gone. Now it's just a matter of the physical parts being gone.
Right.
Yeah. Patrick says he's noticed a difference. Yeah. Yeah, I've
There is a
noticed
huge
a difference.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, the sky looks
Yeah.
so fake. I can barely even like it just doesn't look real
I
anymore.
know. I think it's all hologram pretty much, except for when they're creating like the rain or whatever, or the hurricane, like that wasn't a hologram.
Yeah.
But they're in general, like our day to day, what we're looking at is probably not real.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's
So
pretty
crazy.
intense right now.
So as
So,
far as the dome actually like coming down, so no, I know a lot of people have been so many psychics laugh when we bring up the dome. Yeah, because it's to being a psychic doesn't really mean it just means that you have abilities. It doesn't mean anything about who you are or what you believe. It just means you have abilities. There's all types of psychics out there.
well, and if you're ready to hear about that, you'll hear about it. But if you can't receive it, you will not. So if it's going to hurt them to know about the dome, like it's going to hurt their ego, then your higher self will not tell you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, like if you're not ready.
they're going to have shocks anyway. The shock to the system as the sky changes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know you said you gotta go. Last question. Any chance you could tell us about the weird ships that we've been seeing? The visual energy around them is insane.
The ETs.
Yeah. It's just different ETs. It's honestly a bunch of different
Yeah.
species that are here.
They're everywhere. They're just not
Yeah.
hiding as much as they used to.
Right. Yeah, and it's strategic too. They're allowing us to see little
Mhm.
bits at a time so that we don't collectively go into shock. You know, we've got to like ease people into it.
Exactly.
Thank you so much,
Exactly.
honey, for coming on here. This was
Yeah.
so great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you everyone in the chat, everyone for
Yeah.
participating and commenting and all of that. It's been so fun. We'll do
Yeah.
more of these updates too as things progress. Will we still need politicians? Yeah, we'll talk about stuff like that going forward. But for now,
Not
honey,
so much.
I'm gonna stay live though because I'm gonna do some readings.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much. It's been
It was
great.
great to see you guys. Yeah. Great to
We'll
see you,
talk
Ray.
soon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, honey.
Oop.